Heartbreak kicks off with Nolan and the other rookies enjoying a relaxed evening at a patio bar. That is, until they spot Gray out with his wife, celebrating February 13th. Gray approaches them and tells them to head out so he can enjoy his night. But things quickly go sideways when Nolan steps in to deal with an angry customer, stirring up a scene. Later at home, Nolan gets a call from his usual florist, reminding him of his single status. He decides to send the flowers to a hospital back in his hometown. That's when Ben drops by to check in and suggests throwing a party. Meanwhile, Lopez spends the night with Wesley, and the two trade playful bards about being on opposite sides of the legal system. Back at the station, Wes tells the group that Valentine's Day is always their busiest time of the year. After teasing Nolan a bit, he shares that Bradford is taking the day off for personal reasons. Nolan invites the other to a small get-together, but they both turn him down. While out on patrol, West asks Lopez how things are going with Wesley, and she brings up Valentine's Day gift-giving. She noticed Wesley had gotten her something, but before the conversation goes further, they're interrupted by a foot pursuit. Lopez is stunned when Wesley ends up being brought in for contempt of court, and tensions between them rise quickly. Lopez and West visit the hospital to speak with a man who was assaulted. They try to get information from him, but a concussion from the attack has left his memory unclear. West decides to track down any of the victim's relatives after sharing some light flirting with a nurse. Lopez later returns to the station and smooths things over with Wesley. But when she tries to make dinner plans, he says he's already tied up. Suspicious, she retrieves his phone from evidence lockup and finds a dinner reservation with someone named Melanie on his calendar. While Wes continues digging into the victim's family, Lopez opens up about possibly misreading her relationship. Then, dispatcher Nell reports an attempted abduction in the same area where the man was attacked. They head back to the hospital and ask the victim to describe his attacker. But when he accidentally mentions that the other victim was a woman, something they never told him, Lopez starts to suspect he might be the actual assailant. She moves forward with a warrant to collect his DNA. At the same time, Nolan and Bishop respond to a car crash involving a woman who was electrocuted by a downed power line. Nolan rushes in and performs CPR, managing to revive her. Back at the station, Chen handles a strange walk-in, a man looking for help to find a prostitute he spent the night with. Later, the woman from the accident shows up at the precinct with a gift for Nolan, leading to an uncomfortable moment with Chen. The woman flirts and invites Nolan to visit her, but he keeps it strictly professional. Nolan and Bishop respond to a distress call, but after clearing the house, they realize it was made by the woman from the shock incident. She used it as a way to see Nolan again. Bishop scolds her for using a police scanner to track them down. As they prepare to leave, Nolan notices a photo and asks for a moment alone with her. She shares that her husband died in action and that Nolan's actions gave her a sense of hope. Nolan gently lets her down, saying he isn't interested, and they leave. Elsewhere, Bradford visits a rehab facility to see Isabel, who is now sober and doing better. He feels like he's seen the woman she used to be, and she invites him inside. They talk about her struggles with addiction and his hesitation to trust her again. Bradford opens up, admitting that while everyone told him to walk away, he couldn't bring himself to give up on her. Still, he believes they can't be together if she truly wants to stay clean. After their shift, Nolan and Chen talk about his anti-Valentine's party. As they chat, they spot a bouquet of flowers addressed to Bishop. Lopez brings them over, and Bishop confides in her about being involved with a married man. Their conversation is cut short when the captain shares some serious news. The man from the hospital, Kevin, might be a long-dormant serial killer. Back at the hospital, West finds Kevin unconscious, but as he checks on him, Kevin's suddenly attacked. A nurse walks in, only to be struck with a metal tray. Lopez arrives just in time and pursues Kevin, who now has West's gun. The chase leads them to a stairwell where a fierce struggle breaks out. Lopez fights him off and comes out on top. At Nolan's party, Ben arrives with Denise, the shock victim from earlier. Nolan later finds her in his bedroom, lying naked on his bed. She tells him she noticed the way he looked at Chen, and that she understands. As Nolan tries to help her get dressed, he spots an empty pill bottle and realizes she's attempting to overdose. They manage to keep her conscious until paramedics arrive. Meanwhile, Nell is getting ready to leave work when she runs into a downcast Bradford. He suggests they grab a drink, strictly as friends, and she agrees. Lopez releases Wesley and confronts him about Melanie dying. He explains that Melanie is his stepmother, and the dinner was to honor his late father, who passed away last year. Back at the hospital, Wes checks in on the nurse he met earlier, and it ends with plans for a future date. Over at the precinct, Gray walks into his office to find his wife there, surprising him with a Valentine's Day gesture. As the party winds down, Nolan and Ben clean up while Nolan reflects on how it felt nice to be wanted again. Just then, Bishop shows up late, but decides to stay and hear some of Ben's wild college stories. Overall, Heartbreak was a solid episode. The storylines felt emotional, impactful, and more grounded compared to recent weeks. The central theme of lost love added weight and led to some truly difficult moments for the team. It also gave a bit more depth to characters who haven't had much personal backstory until now. That said, a few of the emotional beats didn't land as strongly as intended, but the episode still managed to deliver a meaningful experience.